Hey guys, I hope all is well. Thank you for joining me for this Truth Talk episode. In today's episode, we will be talking about the music industry executive / manager 100K Track and what happened to his artist. Let's get right into it. Back in 2019, the rapper Ynw Melly was looking like the next big artist coming out of Florida. He had just done a collaboration with one of the biggest names in the music industry, Kanye West. On top of this, all of Melly's songs were getting millions of plays, and it was only looking good for the young rapper until it all changed. Back on February 13, 2019, at the peak of his career, Ynw Melly turned himself in to the police. He was being accused of taking out two of his own close friends. To this day, Ynw Melly is in jail awaiting the outcome of his trial, a trial that can literally determine the state of his existence. Back in 2021, the Florida rapper Hotboii was climbing the industry ladder, dropping massive songs that were getting tens of millions of views, and he had the full support of Florida. Right when Hotboii was at his hottest, things would take a turn for the worse. On July 12, 2021, Hotboii would get arrested, being charged with RICO and conspiracy. He would be given a $750,000 bond and was released, but later it would get revoked and he was rearrested, where he remains to this day. Back in 2020, the rapper King Von was one of the hottest new rappers out. His songs were getting tens of millions of plays, and his name was only getting bigger and bigger with each release. Right when Von saw himself taking over hip-hop, things once again would take a turn for the worse. On November 6, 2020, the rapper King Von passed away. A once thriving rapper now became a tragic memory of an era in hip-hop. Besides all three of these guys being rappers, they all had one thing in common. They were all managed by the same person, 100K Track. When Ynw Melly got arrested, he was being managed by 100K Track. When Hotboii was arrested on RICO charges, he was being managed by 100K Track. When King Von was taken out by Quando's people, not only was 100K Track managing King Von, he was with him at the scene. Even the smaller artists that 100K Track signs seem to face the same problems. The artist 30 Deep Grimy, who recently was sentenced to 8 years in prison right as he was starting to pick up steam, was also managed by 100K Track. To me, this stuck out like a sore thumb. Right when all these artists were at their peak, something would happen to them, and coincidentally, they all just so happened to be managed by the same guy. King Von, Ynw Melly, and Hotboii were 100K Track's biggest artists, and honestly, the only ones that were truly successful on his roster. This situation reminded me of the Empire label that I covered a while back. Strangely, several Empire artists passed, and one of them just so happened to be King Von, who signed to Empire Distribution just to be taken out shortly after. Discovering this made me want to look into 100K Track a bit more, and what people are saying about him online are indeed interesting. 100K Track is a manager and executive, but before he held those titles, he was a rapper trying to make it in the industry. This is actually how he would get into the management side of the music, as when he was an upcoming artist years back, he would pay Kodak Black $500 for a feature. Eventually, he connected with Kodak and joined this team to help him with his merch line. While working with Kodak for some time, managing Kodak's apparel line, he would then go on to manage Jackboy, a close friend of Kodak and one of his former artists. Sometime after managing Jackboy, 100K Track would meet the artist that would change his life, Ynw Melly. Once Track met Melly, his career quickly started to rise to new levels. After finding Melly, Track would end up signing Hotboii, another Florida artist that was bubbling locally. With the help of 100K Track, Hotboii was reaching new heights. 100K was starting to taste success, but this would come paired with trouble for his artists. In 2019, Ynw Melly would get arrested at the height of his career. 100K Track would go on to release Melly's debut album months later while he was in prison. Soon after signing Melly, 100K Track would meet Lil Durk and King Von, and after some time, he would agree to manage King Von as well. King Von has to be 100K Track's biggest success, but also his biggest tragedy. By November 2020, King Von was a star, all thanks to his manager 100K Track. This would lead to the November 6 situation that would bring an end to King Von. We have spoken about the end of King Von several times, and I have made it known that I feel something was definitely off with his passing. King Von was managed by 100K Track and was signed to Lil Durk and Empire Distribution. Like we have seen, a lot of Empire's artists seem to pass away at their peak. Also, just about every artist Durk has signed seemed to also pass away. Add 100K Track into the mix, and how all of his artists are facing prison time. Even Von was facing a case before his passing. All three of these entities were involved with King Von and had something to gain from his loss. When Vaughn passed, Lil Durk continued to collect money from Vaughn's music, and he used Vaughn's passing to push his career. Also, when Vaughn passed away, the ongoing case Durk faced with Vaughn was dismissed after police put all the blame on King Von. Empire also made plenty of money from Vaughn's passing, as they kept on releasing his music and collecting royalties. Same thing with 100K Track. Just like Empire, he is seeing a cut of the royalties and all the other deals he does to license Vaughn's music. They all had something to gain from the passing of King Von. While researching the situation to see if anything stood out to me, I found something very interesting that made me question the entire situation. Like I already said, when King Von passed, 100K Track was there with him, and according to him, he was also struck when Lil Tim was letting go at Von. According to 100K Track, he was struck in the leg, and the moment it happened, he did his best to get away from the situation and take cover. I will not show the footage of what happened that night here, but you can find it online. In that footage, you see Track when he gets hit and stumbles away. This confirms that Track was in the group of guys who went and confronted Rondo with Vaughn. Since the incident happened, dispatch audio of an officer at the scene when the chaos started has been released. On that dispatch audio, we heard the police reveal some interesting information that has many online questioning 100K Track on who he truly works for. On the dispatch call, we hear officers state that Officer Francois got sprayed up and was down.
255 Trinity, radio 255 Trinity, speaking my God. Yo, we got shots. Got a lot of shots going on here. Everybody down here. Oh, we got some people down. Some people down.
Copy, shots fired, 75 Trinity.
Oh my God, forward. We got forward. Right forward. 1504 to radio, turn forward to Officer Francois.
Copy, you need a 4-4 officer.
Confirm. Advisors going on with the officer. Condition of the officer, please.
Advise the condition of the officer.
04 radio. Officer Francois got sprayed. Starting before right here. Officer Francois got sprayed. Starting before right here.
As you heard for yourself, if you listen closely, you hear the officer on the dispatch call clearly state Officer Francois was sprayed up. What's interesting about this is that no police officer were reported to have been injured during the Vaughn situation, so that made no sense to me. I looked online to see if any news articles had reported this, but they hadn't. Then, things get even stranger when you realize 100K Track is actually named Jameson Francois, the very same name as the so-called officer that was struck during the Vaughn situation. If we look at the footage after Track gets hit and stumbles off, he is no longer seen on the footage no more, meaning that he doesn't come back to check on Vaughn nor to help him. This has led many people online to question whether Track was behind all of this, or, even worse, if he's an undercover federal agent. Something I found interesting was that 100K Track was actually questioned about being a police officer, and what he said just seemed off to me. In my opinion, his response comes off very defensive.
To see what was going on. So I've been left. So the person going to the club and the person giving whatever you guys think that is not me. I've been left the scene already.
You been left the scene. How you know? If you been left the scene.
Bro,
see, this the questions that because we heard was on that police dispatch, Officer Francois.
Yeah, but I can't tell you if there's not an Officer Francois. There's an Officer Tom. What if there's an Officer Jerome? What if there's an Officer Ricardo? Who knows? What is that?
Hold on. What we ain't about to do though, look, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Giving me, look, I appreciate you. You ain't have to say a goddamn thing, but it's in me. Ain't you? So you telling me it happened to be an officer with the same last name as you down there?
Listen, how am I supposed to know how am I supposed to know who works in Atlanta? I'm not in Atlanta. I'm from Miami. So if my address is from Miami, if I was an officer, wouldn't my address, my location be from Florida? Why would it be Atlanta? That don't make any sense.
It happened in Atlanta.
How am I gonna be a manager and executive and be an officer at the same time? How can I have so many traits if I'm already an executive and I got a record label and artist? How am I gonna have time to be an officer?
You talking to me like I'm a fool though.
No,
like, what you mean? How it happen? It can happen. Tell me, Miss Francois, that it was with your last name in the same facility, man. You not about to sit here and tell me that?
Okay, am I the only Francois, the only person named Francois in the world?
I think you was the only Francois there.
See, you can't justify you can't justify a name by a position. All you could justify a name by is what you see the person is doing. If my whole career is music, how can I be a cop? Be real now.
As you heard for yourself, 100K Track denies being a police officer or a federal agent. He claims that it was a coincidence that there was an officer there with the same name as him. He also states that he has since legally changed his name and no longer goes by Jameson Francois, but instead as just Track. To me, 100K Track's response seemed highly suspicious and made him look more guilty. Him saying that an officer with his last name, Francois, just so happened to be there just seems crazy. The thing is, let's be honest, his last name isn't a very common name. It's honestly the first time I've ever heard it in my life. Not saying that there isn't any other people with that last name, but what are the chances that the officer at the scene just so happened to have the same last name as him? Also, why is there no reports of an officer being hit besides the police dispatch audio? The dispatch audio from the night clearly states an officer was hit, yet we cannot find no news reports or evidence of what happened. That sounds extremely suspicious to me. It appears that they were trying to get rid of this information. It's also suspicious that he claims he changed his name all of a sudden, like he's trying to cover his tracks. I want to know what you guys think about all of this. To me, I feel that the truth of what happened that night has been hidden. In my opinion, I'm not sure if 100K Track is a federal agent, as it seems too far-fetched. But after seeing all of this clear-cut evidence, and also the fact that the rest of his artists are mostly locked up, I must admit, it's hard not to think Track is connected to the police. One thing I feel for sure was that King Von was set up that night. In my opinion, I believe Dirk, 100K Track, and Empire definitely has something to do with this. Dirk and 100K Track were friends before Von was in the picture. It could be a possibility. Dirk and 100K Track and Quando's team set the situation up, but we would never truly know. Not long after Von passed away, Hotboii got arrested and was charged with RICO. He is facing years behind bars, just like Melly, Muwap, and Slat Zai, all rappers signed to 100K Track management. I mean, if he just had one or at most two rappers facing these situations, it would be just a coincidence. But for half of his artist roster to be arrested, that's not coincidental. Something is going on. Either 100K Track is purposely signing street artists and then playing a role in their demise, or he's signing street artists and is doing a really bad job at managing them. Either or, artists should stay away from him as he is bad news. When researching 100K Track, I couldn't really find much about him. Everything I found out came out of his mouth or articles written by his management company. It's like they don't want you to know anything about him and they want to keep his past a secret. Who knows what 100K Track was doing during his come up? For all we know, he could have been becoming a federal agent. What I do know is that he seems to have popped up out of nowhere. Even the way he explained his rise, stating he had connections with Kodak before he was in the game, just seems so strange. The industry is definitely corrupt and no one should be trusted. We know that these artists are expendable and their managers and labels only use these artists for their success. Something else I found interesting is that even though 100K Track keeps losing artists, he somehow is still making a lot of money, especially now since he just signed a label deal with 300 Entertainment, giving him even more money and power. Something is off about this. Why would a label give him a bunch of money to start a label if all the artists he signed that are successful are getting locked up? Why would the label want to go to business with him? It's because 100K Track has found a way to turn these artists' arrests into profit for his company, using street rappers to make himself millions of dollars. The industry is wicked, and I know something is off about this entire situation. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I just want to give a special shout out to the Truth Movement members. I truly appreciate every single one of you. If you'd like to further support the channel, join the Truth Movement, or you can join me on Patreon where I drop exclusive videos monthly. The link would be in the description. Another way you can further support the channel is by checking out the Truth Fit store and seeing if you find anything you like. Every purchase you make goes directly to helping the channel and furthering Truth Records. Also, please leave a comment on your thoughts below and on any future topics you would like to see me cover on my channel. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified when I drop new videos. If you like this video, please leave a like as it helps other people find these videos. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram and follow me there for more truth. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.